Universalization of school education, right to education, and universal access and issues of universal enrollment, universal retention, and universal learning. The role of education is to facilitate social and economic progress. It opens up opportunities leading to both individual and group entitlements. Education in its broadest sense, in development of youth, it is the most crucial input for empowering people with skills and knowledge and giving them access to productive employment in future. Improvements in education not only expected to enhance efficiency but also enhance the overall quality of life. The 11th plan places the highest priority on education as a central instrument for achieving rapid and inclusive growth. Education is the basis of modernization and human development. It is a process of learning and it continues all the way through the lifetime. It promotes mobilization and encourages students to participate in development activities. Education makes students become more skilled towards getting jobs and as productive citizens too. At the time of independence, India inherited a system of education which was not only qualitatively small but also characterized by structured imbalances. Only 14% of the population was literate and only one child out of 3 has been enrolled in primary schools. The low levels of participation and literacy were aggravated by acute regional and gender disparities. As education is vitally linked with the totality of the development process, education being the basic tool for the development of consciousness, reconstitution of society. In the words of Mahatma Gandhiji, the reform and restructuring of the educational system was recognized as an important area of state intervention. The need for a literate population and universal education for all children in the group of 6 to 14 years was recognized as a crucial input for nation building and was given due consideration in the constitution as well as in successive 5-year plans. This has resulted in a multiple increase of spatial spread, infrastructural facilities, increased coverage of various social groups, but the goal of providing basic education to all is still difficult to achieve. Universalization of primary or elementary education has got 3 ladders such as universalization of provision, universalization of enrollment and universalization of retention. It means school facilities is to be provided to all the children between the age group of 6 to 14 years in the country, and also the school should be within the walking distance from the home of a child. This is possible only when we open more schools for our children. Next, in the provision of school facilities comes this universalization of enrollment, which means all children between the age group of 6 to 14 years to be enrolled in the primary schools. As we think more about the universalization of enrollment, first we have to find out why children do not enroll in the schools. The reason for non-enrollment may be ignorance of parents, indifferent attitude of educational authorities towards people, unawareness about the importance of education by the parents, and isolation of school and community, and also maybe the financial problem. Now, let us think, how can we promote enrollment? The major objective of SSCA is enrollment of all children in schools. In this regard, various efforts were undertaken by the government so far to improve enrollment of children in schools. In order to enroll all children in school, it is imperative that all out-of-school children be brought into the school first. This calls for an intensive identification of all children who are in the school and who are out of the school, followed by enrollment and back to school drive. This also calls for a three-pronged strategy: data collection and identification of school-going children or out-of-school children, enrollment of all children in schools, regular child-wise tracking out of school or back to school children throughout the academic session, mobilization and motivation of all families and community for their children enrollment and education, door-to-door contact campaign, preparation of village education registers, urban ward education registers for data collection and identification of school going or out of school children, and the last is enrollment drive for all eligible children, focusing on back to school strategies for out of school children. The above mentioned strategy was implemented in the name of School Chale Hum Abhiyan in the month of July 2009. In this type, if once a child joins the school, he or she should remain there till the completion of his or her primary school. If the child leaves the primary school without completion of his course, the idea of universalization of primary education stands defeated. Not only admitting a child in a school is important, but his retention in the school is of supreme importance. Now, let us see how to promote retention. Continuous monitoring of attendance for intensive activities, provision of some token awards, grades or incentives if possible for better attendance, facilitation of children with good academic or attendance records, community involvement in mobilizing parents for regular attendance of their children, providing scholarships. These activities help in promoting retention. Providing education to all, both boys and girls, with a focus on quality education assumes greater meaning today when we consider the emerging challenges in our society. For example, rising levels of socio-economic status and also the self-governing awareness, particularly among underprivileged sections and linguistic minorities and girls, seek space in the education system for greater access, participation and quality. Education in India provided by the government schools, government aided schools, corporation schools and private schools gets the control and funding from three levels, that is central, state and local. As per the Indian Constitution, free and compulsory education is provided as a fundamental right to children between the age of 6 and 14 years. The ratio of public schools to private schools in India is 7:5. India has made progress in terms of increasing the primary education attendance rate and expanding literacy to approximately 3/4 of the population in the group of 7 to 10 years. By 2011, India improved education system is often cited as one of the main contribution to its economic development. Much of the progress, especially in higher education and scientific research, has been credited to various public institutions. While enrollment in higher education has increased steadily over the past decade, reaching a gross enrollment ratio of 24% in 2013, the Annual Status of Education Report 2012 states that 96.5% of all rural children between the ages 6 to 14 years were enrolled in schools. Another report from 2013 stated that there were 22.9 crore students enrolled in different accredited urban and rural schools of India from class 1 to class 12, representing an increase of 23 lakh students over 2002 total enrollment and a 19% increase in girls' enrollment. These factors depict us that India is slowly trying to reach universal education. The Government of India implemented many schemes to promote universal enrollment, retention and universal learning. They are Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which was popularly called as SSA. The nation has been made strenuous efforts in providing quality elementary education to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. Several interventions have been undertaken for many decades for fulfilling this constitutional obligation. The latest such intervention is Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, a countrywide program launched in 2002. This program is also an attempt to provide an opportunity for improving human capabilities to all children through provision of community-owned quality education in a mission mode. It is a response to the demand for quality basic education all over the country. The main objectives and targets of SSA is to provide comprehensive and integrated flagship program of Government of India to attain universal elementary education covering the entire country in a mission mode. To provide useful and relevant elementary education to all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years by 2010. It is an effort to universalize elementary education by community ownership of the school system, to secure the right of quality-based education for all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. There are also certain goals of SSA mission such as enrollment of all children in school, education guarantee center or alternate school, back to school camp by 2005. Retention of all children till the upper primary stage by 2010, bridging of gender and social category gaps in enrollment, retention and learning, ensuring significant enhancement in the learning achievement levels of children at primary and upper primary stage, the barriers to access these kind of education. An important question that needs to be addressed in order to make education more accessible to the public involves the necessary elements that enable access to good education. Creating universal access to good education is a challenging objective that requires sufficient time and proper sources. A host of factors need to be addressed, first of which good infrastructure is one of the key ingredients to reach this goal. Facilities such as electricity, internet and computer access, classrooms, schools and other communication systems are also an important elements to enhance delivery of education. Other major elements that are determinants in opening up the doors to quality education in the developing nations are the national legal system and the public awareness of the necessity of education as a tool to growth and success. Below, more specific barriers to education at the same time are necessary elements to enable educational access are provided. Lack of access to education in the developing world innovation education system, there are many barriers that hinder the provision of access to education. These may stem from social, economic, cultural and political areas. One of the barriers is derived from access to the education system itself. Schools have to be able to offer comfortable environments or settings in order to stimulate the learning experience of all pupils. For example, countries' infrastructure, sufficient school buildings, adequate teachers, learning materials, interesting educational content, basic utilities such as electricity, water and sanitary facilities. Moreover, it is also important to give proper training and support for teachers. Poverty is one of the major problems in developing nations. One of the reasons why children are out of school is because families are not able to pay for their children's education. They usually have to choose between attending school or to work in order to support their families. Another critical issue related to poverty is poor nutrition, which leads to illness, obstructing educational capabilities. A report from UNESCO shows that there is a reason why children in developing nations are not attending school. It is indicated that regional non-enrollment percentages vary in the incidence of child labor, with Africa taking top place as 41%, followed by Asia, that is 21%, and Latin America as 17%. According to UNICEF, every year at least 9 million more girls than boys are not getting an education. This is due to certain countries' tradition and culture which lack of access to education in the developing world. Innovation require girls to marry at a young age, and even in some countries as young as 14 years old. By the time they are married, they need to drop out of their school. Data from 1996 shows that in India, 38% of girls aged 15 to 19 years were married. Another factor in hampering education to developing nations is due to the fact that the schools sometimes are not very secure places for kids. There are still issues about intolerance, discrimination, and violence. Thus, these are considered as issues of universal enrollment, universal retention, and universal learning. Thank you for listening.
you.